Shane Murphy here, entrepreneur and restaurant marketing expert. Welcome to the Restaurant Rocket Fuel podcast, where we discuss marketing strategies that leading restaurateurs are using to grow and expand their restaurants. This podcast is sponsored by Boostly, the text marketing company that works with every point of sale and online ordering vendor in the industry. No contracts, no monthly fees. Learn more at boostly.com.
Well, hello, everyone. It's great to see you. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to this joint webinar with ChowNow and Boostly titled 3 Tactics to Grow Your Restaurant's Revenue this month. So I'm very excited to kick this off today. We have some special guests, some panelists. I'm very excited to hear what they have to say on this topic. I know that a lot of you in the chat and here joining are very interested in this topic. Throughout this webinar, if you will, feel free to chat in at any time. If you have questions, if you have comments you want to put in there, remember, you can choose to chat to just host and panelist or everyone. If you choose to go to everyone, it'll go to everyone, which, then I'm up here and like, hey, someone said this. Everybody's gonna be like, where does it say that in the chat? But you can go to everyone. It's all good. My name is Cole Lindberg. I am one of the sales enablement managers at ChowNow. So it is my job at ChowNow to do everything I can to help our sales team get all the information they need to go out and help our restaurants be successful. So I'm very excited to be hosting this today, master of ceremonies, if you call it. And I have 2 special guests here that are joining us here on this chat. So I would like to introduce both Shane Murphy and Shandy Lindley. They're going to give a little introduction on themselves. Shane, I'm going to start with you. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. We want to know you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited for this webinar today. This is going to be so much fun. And like Cole said, I'm Shane Murphy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Boostly, which is the SMS marketing system for restaurants that works well with practically every tech vendor that a restaurant has, whether it's your point of sale, your online ordering system, your phone system, reservations, you name it. We work well with them. And I've also previously built an online ordering company, a business catering marketplace. I spent years in the restaurant operations world as an executive at Jolt. So I've spent the better part of my career in restaurant technology. And I've always just been really passionate about helping, small restaurant owners and the SMB of restaurants really grow their revenue and have tangible, awesome business outcomes. So I'm really excited about the topic today as well.
Well, it's great to have you here. Thank you, Shane. Excited to hear some of your insight in this, especially with so many involvement in so many different parts of the restaurant tech space. Shandy, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Cool. My name is Shandy Lindley, and I am the Senior Director of Customer Success at ChowNow. And so I oversee our restaurant success team and also our 24/7 customer support team. My background is in restaurants. So I actually worked in restaurants for over a decade in New York City and in Los Angeles. I've done it all. I've been a barista. I've been a manager. I've worked at mom and pops. I've worked at large corporations. And I am really excited about this topic. It's near and dear to my heart today.
Fantastic. Very excited to talk to you both. As I mentioned, we have a few more folks coming in. Feel free, you can use the chat function at any time. Feel free to choose to everyone. You can send your chat to everybody. But why we are here. So we are talking today about 3 tactics to grow your restaurant's revenue this month. And we're going to separate out into 3 different things, 3 different topics. We're going to talk a little bit about, increasing order volume. We're going to talk a little bit about elevating your presence, data analytics. We're going to talk about customer data and info. We're going to talk about menu engineering, one of my personal favorites. But before we dive into kind of our first topic, if you will, we're going to send out a survey question here, which bear with us. This is always fun when you do this through Zoom. Let's see. Hey, there it is. So a poll question has come up there on the screen. I'm excited for you to answer it. So question 1, are you currently storing customer data? So customer data, your customer information, do you keep it? Do you have it? And then are you using customer data for any marketing purposes? Yes, no, I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on customer data? So put that information in there. Elaine in the chat was like, yes, and yes. And that is fantastic. There we go. We will add that to the overall score. We appreciate that. We'll give it a few more seconds here, and then we'll kind of see what the answers are coming up with. Always intriguing to see how restaurants are using customer data. Are they getting the data? Wait, we get data? Where did that come from? So, interest to see. So if we want to go ahead and see some of the results here, let's see what happens. Of course, Zoom, come on. Come on, Zoom. You can do it. I'm just going to assume that everybody said yes.
I think everyone said yes and yes. I think Elaine and Dante led the way.
There we go. All right, so 30, yes on both. And then on number 2, interesting, kind of split here. Are you using customer data for any marketing purposes? Yes, no, I'm not sure. So are you storing customer data? Big solid yes. That's great news. Are you using it for marketing? Kind of there in the middle. Okay, well then that can really help to kind of kick off our first topic today, because we want to talk a little bit about using customer data to increase order volume. All right. And we've kind of established that, people are storing data, which is exciting. Shane, I'm going to kick it off to you. Storing data. Why is this so valuable? Why is this important? Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Dante put into the comments, like, you must be doing this on both. Like this, for a restaurant, this needs to be a yes and a yes. And I think that's so true, because when you ask that question, why is it so valuable to store and use customer data? At the end of the day, it's because it allows you to reach your customers time and time again and actually encourage them to repeat visit and come back more often and spend more with you in a world where people have so many different ways to go and find restaurants. And one of those really big ones that they've been going to in recent years are the third parties, where there might be higher margins or lower margins that you experience and higher commissions. And that they don't give the restaurant the customer data. They keep it for themselves and try to make them their customer instead of your customer. It's more important now than ever before to have it so that you can use it and drive them back into you directly where you make the most money.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, because I know certainly when I've spoken to restaurants, it's kind of like, hey, you're getting your orders from third parties. Do you get any of that information? Sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no, so I'm not sure. But ultimately it's kind of like, wait, who owns my customer? We want you to own the customer, you, the restaurant, own the customer. And so I think that kind of is very interesting and kind of leads into our next topic here. We saw that, a lot of people have that customer data, but maybe they're not ultimately sure like what they can do with it. We're kind of split on the marketing question. Shandy, I'm going to hand it over to you. What do you do with the data? There's so many things, but like, what can you do with this data that you're getting?
Yeah, you can do so much with it. And I think it's important really to take this data and then focus for impact, right? Like busy restaurant owners, you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to, have giant marketing campaigns all the time and think about this 24/7. So how can you leverage this data that you have to hit the business goals that you have? Something that we do really well at ChowNow and that we talk about with our partners is leveraging email marketing, right? And this depends. Like, do you have email data? Do you have email data from your online ordering that you use, or do you have a way for your clients to give you email? If they do, this is a great place to leverage some of this data. You want to be able to get information out to your diners about what's going on, like what's new in your restaurant. Do you have any promotions? Do you want to just like highlight cool things that are happening, or your staff? Do you want to sort of get to know the restaurant a little bit more? This is a great place. It's also a great place for automation, right? So this is a great place for you to be able to kind of set it and forget it a little bit, and still be able to leverage that data and connect with your diners and keep them coming back to you, which is what Shane was saying earlier.
Shane, what more can you add to that about, using the data? What do you got when you store it? Like, what are some other options?
Yeah, I'd add two additional things, because and maybe even before I touch on those, is sometimes, there was a third of the audience here who says they either don't store data or they aren't sure if they're storing data. And often restaurant owners are surprised at how much data they actually do have access to. And there are a lot of different places to look for that. Often you might be storing like phone numbers, maybe addresses for delivery orders in your point of sale. You might have an email attached to a loyalty program that you have, or with an online order that comes through, or a reservation system. You might, phone numbers, or if you're taking call-in orders, you actually have data sitting with your phone vendor as well. And often you can be surprised at how much you actually have. And then it's like, okay, what do I do with all of this? Shandy mentioned email, and that's something that ChowNow actually does really well with their customer data, is automating the email marketing side, which is great. If you have access to addresses in your point of sale or online ordering, you can even do local direct mail is a pretty common one. Where Boostly really specializes is in text message marketing. So we take the phone numbers in all of your disparate systems, get people to opt in, and then build up this subscriber base that you can text people on a dime. And when you send out a text, you're literally just waiting minutes before people are actually calling the store, placing online orders, and using those promo codes because it's so direct. And each of these have power because there's a certain segment of your customer base where email is their preference. Another where, if they get a direct mail, they're gonna, someone's gonna leaf through that and say, oh yeah, let's do it. And text message, there's, about a third of your audience will probably raise their hand and say, I want to receive texts from you. And that is a very, very powerful way to do it. And we've had a wide swath of people with different amounts of data. If you are storing data, Boostly can help you capitalize on that really quickly from an SMS and text marketing perspective. If you don't have a lot of data, but you get a lot of online orders, for instance, like maybe you're using ChowNow, but you haven't stored a bunch outside of ChowNow before. One of the good things about like a Boostly and a ChowNow combo is we're integrated together in real time. Both parties are pulling that data and helping you to put it to work automatically so that you don't have to do the thinking. It can you push play and people are joining text clubs and you're, sending out automated emails and you're actually driving the needle and getting more orders right away, which is what we're shooting to do.
Yeah, leveraging all of as many channels as you can is so important because you don't always know exactly where the eyes are. And there's so much competition in, all of these channels. The more you can get out there, the sort of better the odds are for you to really reach your diners in a meaningful way.
Yeah, you've got to stay in front of people almost all the time these days because of the amount of competition.
Yeah.
I'd love to see in the chat, for those folks that are using their data, what are you doing with your data? Are you doing things like email? Are you sending text messages? I always find it interesting. So it's like, I'm printing off flyers still, giving out flyers. Like, what are you doing right now with your data that you're getting? Feel free to put it in the chat. You mark everyone. I'd love to see if there's any other like unique and interesting ideas, because I think one of the most interesting parts is like, there are so many places that you can get data, but it can kind of feel overwhelming to like go and find it. Oh, wait, so much is in my POS, or, oh, it's in my online ordering. And so having things in place to like, I like what you said there, Shane, like to just press play. And it's like, hey, this is just working in the background and it's reaching out to my customers. It's trying to get them to come back, order more, come on in, bring your family in, come join the special. Like, I feel like that's such a big, big part of where data can go. Right, where it can
being
go.
Really smart and directive with your marketing and using that data to understand who is the diner that is engaged with you, who do we just need to say, hey, happy to have you all the time, who has sort of fallen off, and being able to make those smart insights and tailoring the message as best you can, right, to these folks, I think is really meaningful.
Yeah, so we got email and Instagram, text emails. Dante says flyers doesn't really work anymore. Text email for reviews, emails for promotion with ChowNow app users, and then have done both text and emails, but not consistently, says Elaine. So, I mean, it feels like text is a big part of that. Email, of course, is a big part of that. I always find it interesting, the flyer interesting, that flyer example. Yeah, it doesn't really work anymore, but also the other big part of that is you don't have any way to track it. Right? You give out a flyer and maybe it's a promotion that goes out there and the paper is now to the wind, right? Where email and text, it could come back to you and you can see how that performs in different things over time.
With print marketing, we have a lot of success, in store with print marketing. So that when you have a bag that you are handing to a courier or you are delivering to someone or you're handing takeout to, that is real estate, right? Like the data is that the diner is there, you're looking them in the eye. And so you want to make sure that you've got a sticker there. And if you want to tell them to order from, your direct ordering, or you want to inform them about something, putting flyers in the bag, that's really helpful. We've had a lot of clients have a lot of success there. Really, if their eyes are there, then it's a great place to market. If they're looking at their phone, if they're looking at their email, if they're looking at a bag, if they're looking at a table tent, if they're looking at the front of your store, wherever their eyes are is where you got to be.
And, Shandy, you mentioned this, and, the comment that Nico just made in the chat as well made me think of this even further. Nico mentioned about like re-engaging lapsed guests and wishing people happy birthday and like really doing the tailored type of marketing. It's one thing to use data to go and market and to use these mediums. And then it becomes the question of how do I make it better? How do I make this a more one-to-one experience where I take this relationship that I have with my customer and deepen that through the marketing? And for most of history, restaurant marketing has been mass marketing. Everybody receives the same exact message, the same exact offer, the same direct mail piece, the same email. And technology has been evolving. And that's one of the things that we've really tried to focus on a lot at Boostly from a text marketing angle is how do we do behavioral based marketing? So if we want to treat the people who are coming in on, a weekly or monthly basis very differently from the people who haven't ordered in 3 months. And how do we engage them and gamify the experience and know who are my high spenders, who are my not high spenders, who had good feedback, who had bad feedback. And if the more that you can use technology to tailor that marketing, the success of that marketing increases and just drives more revenue as well. So there are a few stages. Like collect the data, use the data, at least in like a basic form, and then use it in a more smart way to get even better results when you find the channels that are working for you and your customers.
That's a great way to put that. Yeah, absolutely. Data, it's changing all the time. More and more data, more and more ways to use it. Very exciting. We could talk about this for hours. But of course, we have 3 things that we need to talk about. So we're going to transition a little bit and we're going to start talking a little bit more about like elevating a restaurant's online presence, because that is one other big thing that you can do. So we have another poll question. Love the poll questions. Let's see what happens here. So poll question, what % of your business comes from online orders in a month? Is it less than 25, 25 to 49, 50 to 75, more than 75? And then how big of an impact do you feel your online presence makes on your business? So a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a massive impact, 1 being not much impact at all. So go ahead, answer those questions in the chat or in the poll there. And Josh says, are we including third-party orders? Yes, we are. We're putting it all together. Any online ordering you get there. So what percentage of your business comes from online orders in a month? Give it a few seconds here, and then we'll see what happens. Zoom takes that extra 5 seconds to calculate the poll. It's working overtime. Is it too much?
Is it going to work? Is it not going to work?
Not going to work. We don't know.
See.
All right. Oh, there we go. Let's see. All right. What percentage of your business comes from online orders? Less than 25%, or 57% of folks said less than 25. How much of an impact do you feel your online order presence makes on your business? It looks like about 8 is the range there. 8, which about 26%. Next one, about a 5 at 14%. So very big across the board there, but averaging more towards the high side. This is very interesting. I love hearing this because I live in a world where I work at ChowNow. I talk about online ordering all the time, but obviously I'm like, no, it's the big thing, but I know that that's not always the case. So there are a lot of ways that online presence is important. We could talk about websites. We could talk about things. Shandy, I'm going to hand it over to you. Like, what is some of the most important places that we should be talking about when it comes to elevating a restaurant's online presence?
So, I like to think about your online presence as it's your online restaurant. Right. So you put so much time into thinking about the client experience, the diner journey when they walk up to your restaurant, when they walk into your restaurant, who they talk to, where they go, how they order. There's so much thought into this. And the same amount has to go into your online presence, right? Because that is their experience. So when they Google you, what do they see? Where does your website rank? How many clicks does it take for them to place their online order and actually check out? Do you own everything on the internet that is about you? So do you own, are you updating your website, on a regular basis? Are you checking to see your rankings? Do you own your Google business page? And not only do you own it, but have you made sure that your preferred online ordering is marked as preferred? Is the thing right there? Or is there a higher commission option that's actually first? Do you have the right pictures there? It's, all of these things like TripAdvisor. Do you own that? Do you own your Yelp? There's so many of them. Because that is where your diner is, that they're interacting with you just like they would in your restaurant, but online. And I think, based on that survey, there's actually a lot of opportunity here for a lot more interaction and more revenue from folks, from diners that are engaging with them online.
And there was a question that somebody asked on, like, how do you check your website ranking? And I can just answer that really quick. One of the best ways to do it is you open up a incognito window. If you're in Google Chrome, or if it's in Safari, open up a private window, and then you can just run the search. And you could do anything from like pizza near me to Google the name of your restaurant. Sometimes what you'll actually find when Googling your restaurant's name is that there are other third-party websites that rank above you. And that's one of the reasons why that is important, is the third parties are really good at search engine optimization. Their pages rank really well. And that means if they're the first ones popping up, more people are going to order through those than versus going directly to your website. One of the Google has its own algorithm on how it ranks things. And this goes for two things, both like when you search and what websites pop up, but also when you search in like Google Maps for pizza or whatever restaurants near me, who's going to show up first and towards the top of the list. And there's a few different things that go into that. One thing that they look at is, does the Google listing match what's on the website? And so Shandy talked about, make sure you own your Google listing, that your website is listed there, your phone number, you've put your preferred place for them to order down. Google looks at all of that and matches with the websites and then prioritizes those. So that's one way to help. Another really strong one is Google in particular really looks at your Google review rankings. And they look at not only what is your star ranking, but how many reviews you have and how frequently you're getting those reviews and the recency. Because sometimes you'll look in Google Maps, you'll search like restaurants near me, and you'll see someone above you that has a lower star rate ranking, and maybe it's because they have like twice as many reviews as you. That is sometimes a reason. Or if it's very similar, who's more recent and how frequently are they getting it, and those get prioritized. So that's another area where you can focus. that can, you can train your staff to be asking for reviews and things like that. There's also automated ways to do it. Like, for example, Boostly, is integrated with everything and will automatically ask for feedback after somebody's order. So if somebody ordered through ChowNow today, within, right when they're eating their meal, probably like 30 to 45 minutes later, we're going to ask them for feedback on their experience and help to generate 5-star reviews on places like Google to pump you up in those listings and elevate your online presence. Or if it's negative, we'll keep that internal so you can actually do something about it and make it right with the customer or retain them, rather than just leaving it on a whim and having that hurt your online presence. So those are some of the other factors that can go into that as well.
I saw a question here that was, how do you actually own TripAdvisor, et cetera, that I think is important if anyone has a question like this. So all of these websites that have reviews, that have the ability for you to have online ordering on them, you can go in and sometimes you can claim it, own it, create an account, be the sort of business owner behind it. They all have this. Each one is slightly different. We have a lot of clients at ChowNow who use something we call Order Better Network, right? Which we have the ability to put ChowNow across a lot of these different platforms, like TripAdvisor, Yelp, Google. And so you can go in there and make sure that you have all the right information, right? Like Shane was saying, it all needs to match. The more that matches about you on the internet, the more sort of legitimate everything seems, the higher you rank. And then, this isn't, unfortunately, like a set it and forget it sort of thing. Things change. It's important to keep up with this all the time. We have a conversation a lot with some of our restaurant partners where, it looks like your online ordering has dropped, like your online ordering revenue has dropped. Why is it? The button on your website doesn't work, and it hasn't worked for a week. And you have to go in there, and just like you would fix a wobbly table in your restaurant, you got to go in and make sure that everything is up to date and all the widgets are working on a regular basis online as well.
I have a couple takeaways from everything that you guys mentioned. Number one, of course, being like the Google rankings. And there's nothing more of a gut punch when you are a restaurant that has worked so hard to build your status and have your loyal customers, and you go in and you search your restaurant name and it's like DoorDash that comes up first. And then and you're like, no, I want people to come to me. Don't go there. That's going to cost me money. And then the other thing that I was thinking about really as we were talking about this is that there are so many places, it feels like now, because we've talked about like the Googles of the world, but I mean, elevating on your online presence can also be like the Facebook pages of the world and the Instagrams of the world, and just trying to do everything you can to bring more and more of your customers to you directly, right? Because really, ultimately, in the day, the biggest way to elevate your online presence is more people have eyeballs on you in your restaurant. So, putting this out to the chat. Remember, you can chat with us. You can ask questions. You can use chat with just us, the hosts and panelists, or everyone. I'd love to hear some creative ways that maybe some folks are doing to elevate their online presence. What's some cool things that you've done? Maybe you've had a little help with your Google Analytics, things like that. If you have anything like that, throw it in the chat. We'd love to see it, because ultimately, the idea here being like, hey, we want to get more great reviews. We want to get higher rankings on our Google page. All of it has to work together. So if you have anything like that, please throw it in the chat. We'd love to hear it, because I think it's always interesting how scrappy we can get sometimes to be like, hey, my Google review fell here. How can I bump it up a half a star? Discounts, no, just things like that. Shandy, anything creative or that you've seen to also help boost that online presence, or get that information out there, more eyeballs on a restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on the. Trying to think if there's anything super creative. The thing is, there's a lot that you can do. But I think one of the best things is that this isn't something that you need to be so creative about, right? Like, we know that because like, truthfully, where do you want to spend your creative energy as a restaurant owner? And I think that is on things that are more fun. So, your menu and, all this and like the diner experience and all that good stuff. And so I think the beauty of a lot of this is that you don't have to waste your creative energy on this, and that you can sort of set a lot of this up to be very successful without having to sort of tap dance all the time and figure out new ways of doing it. So if you're responding to your reviews all the time, just like you would respond to any good or bad feedback in your restaurant, if you are making sure everything is up to date, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, the most basic thing is Google your restaurant in a incognito window and look yourself up in like Google Maps and do those two things and make sure that your website matches, make sure you have the right phone number and the right online ordering, like pointing to your direct source through your website. That will get a bulk of it for you. And that's probably the biggest bang for your buck that can take you can do it in 2 minutes.
That's great. That's great news. So basically what you're saying is, Cole, you're too creative. You need to stop making TikTok videos about restaurants, things like that. I get it. It's totally fine.
Or maybe you could maybe if someone could ask you to make them a TikTok video, that can be the takeaway here. So
that's exactly the takeaway.
One free cool TikTok video.
I see a few questions that come to us. John, I'm going to get to your question here at the end. I have it here in front of me. Nico is saying we manage many of our online presence portfolio with Bird AI. Very cool. Use AI phone to answer our phone's choice. Very cool. I'd love to hear more about that. We're going to get to our last topic here, the 3 tactics to grow your restaurant's revenue this month. And honestly, this one's one of my favorites, menu engineering. So we're going to talk a little bit about menu engineering. So final poll question. We'll throw it up here. How have your profit margins changed over the last 3 years? Have they increased? Have they decreased? Haven't changed that much? Tell us about it. How have your profit margins changed over the last 3 years? They gone up? They gone down? Still the same. Give it a few moments here. I'm excited to see the answer on this one. I mean, I'm always excited for poll questions and seeing what people say. But all right, let's go ahead and see if we can get an answer. Here it is coming up, and they have decreased. 71% of you who have answered, 34 they answered, they have decreased. 6 said they have increased, and 4, they haven't changed much. Very, very interesting. Well, let's talk about menu engineering. And I think the simple question to start with is, I'll hand over to you, Shane. What is menu engineering? Can you break it down for us? Like, I know we kind of have an idea, but maybe in your little pitch here, what's menu engineering and how can we use it?
Yeah, so these are two questions. I'll start with what is menu engineering, and then like how do we use it. So menu engineering in its most basic form is structuring your menu in ways that highlight the highest margin items and really just optimizes you for a high margin sale at the end of the day. This comes down to maybe how you structure the menu, how you prioritize certain items in both an online view and how people come across it, as well as in just your menu boards. This can also be how you bundle certain things together, the upsell options that are already included. That what do you include them? Do you offer them as they have to click a button to add them on or to move them off? And that's like the basics of what menu engineering is at the core of it. And ChowNow does a great job of helping people to engineer their menus in these ways. The second question that you asked was, well, what do we do with that once we have engineered our menu? And that's really where Boostly has gotten a lot of experience and has a lot of data to support it, because we go about, from at least a text marketing perspective, how do we get certain things in front of the customer that catches their attention and brings them either to your menu or to do it in a way where it's maximizing margins for you. So we obviously do it through SMS because every text is read and you get much higher response rates than just like an email. But often you can highlight like high margin items where you can use them in a few different ways. It can be like, hey, this is a new item of the month and we're showcasing this. You can couple it with like offers with purchase minimums is a great way to preserve margin and drive ROI. So you need to craft the offers in intelligent ways. Where if you have, sometimes you look for a low cost leader. What this is a low food cost item that many people like, that you can give away for either very cheap or for free, and in exchange for a higher ticket average than maybe you normally do. So if your ticket average is $20 per order, maybe you say, hey, I will give you a free order of like garlic knots, which maybe you have 62 cent knots. That's your food cost on it. You sell it for $4.50. Your food cost is 62. Give away that 62 cent food item in exchange for a $25 or $30 order minimum, and all of a sudden you're getting higher ticket averages with very low cost on your end. That offer crafting side is where we really have helped people to specialize and milk more margins in their business. I know ChowNow does a lot with bundling and upselling and structuring your menu overall together.
Yeah. I'll add on my side of it. And I will keep going back to this, but it really is just what's important to you in your restaurant should be important to you online. So, we consult with restaurants all the time around just making sure that if someone wants to pay you for something, they can when they're ordering online, right? If they might want extra ranch with something, you better make it so easy for them to pay you to get the extra ranch or the extra guac or whatever it is. You know what's going to be great on your menu, what people are asking for. If you find that people are writing a lot of things in special instructions, that means that we need to make it easy for them to actually pay for that item, right? And people want to do it. I have a place down the street from me who I am trying to get to just add an extra side of Caesar dressing so that I can not have to ask for it for free because I feel bad. I want to give them the $2, and yeah, so we have these conversations all the time. If it's something that you instruct your servers in-house to, hey, this is a great pairing, this is a great upsell, make sure that that's available online. Because if it's a good thing, diners will do it and it'll help your margins.
Without fail, if they say, hey, would you like to add a dessert? I am there. I always add a dessert. Like if it comes up on the menu when I'm ordering, it's like, oh, would you like to add this, add a dessert? Yes, of course. I would love to. I spend more money on dessert with my online orders than I ever do in the restaurant. I don't know what that says about me. I mean, I just don't want to like eat it in front of people in a restaurant space, maybe. I don't know.
Well, there's no shame in getting a little something sweet, either in public or in private.
I think one of the key things to know is, why do people like your restaurant? And lean into that. And often it's because you have high quality. If you are a high quality food place, man, lean into, we are high quality. And we bundle things together in ways that make us really good money, preserve our margin, and it's what the people want. Some places are all about the atmosphere, and you can lean into that. Some places, you just have that one item that people just will die for, and find a way to make that prominent, and lean into those things that are special about you, because people like you and they want to keep ordering from you, and you want to grow their frequency and how much they spend. And you can use both online menus and marketing techniques to bridge that gap together to accomplish those two things.
That's really great. That's really great. All of this is fantastic information, and I'd be interested in some of those folks who maybe on the poll question said that their margins have increased. I mean, how have they increased? What have you done to help get them to increase? So, I mean, if you want to throw those in the chat, we'd love to see it. I do see a handful of questions here in the chat that have come through. We are going to do a Q&A here in just a moment, here at the end, talking through all of these different questions. But before we do that, want to give the floor open to Shane and open to Shandy to talk a little bit more about Boostly, talk a little bit more about ChowNow, and then we'll dive into all these Q&A. There's some really, really good ones coming through. So if you have questions for Shane or Shandy specifically about ChowNow, about Boostly, maybe about more of the topics we talked about today, please put them in the chat. Remember, you can have it go to everyone, or you can have it go to just us. But Shane, I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of give us like a little bit of an overview on Boostly, and then Shandy for ChowNow, and then we'll get into our Q&A.
Awesome. I'll keep this short to like just 30 seconds. The quick intro on Boostly is obviously we are an SMS marketing system. We only work with restaurants, and a big part of what has made us special and impactful for restaurants is that we work with your data across any system that you have. So if it's your point of sale, if it's your online ordering, your phone system, reservations, your website, we help put that to work for you. And this can be completely automated. And so rather than you having to load up everything and remember to schedule it and figure all of that out, you can just push play and it runs. And rather than just sending everyone the exact same message, we use their purchase behaviors and how they've engaged with you in the past to send the right message to the right customers when they are most likely to transact with you. And there aren't any contracts and there aren't any setup fees. All of this data is yours. You own it, and it's all about helping you drive more sales. So Shandy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. So ChowNow, we're all in one for growing your online ordering business for takeout and delivery, and also helping streamline operations. And we've had a lot of really exciting, product innovations in the last year or so with some new partnerships. And a plug that I will give to my own team, where I am sort of queen of the castle, is we've got 24/7 award-winning support, and a dedicated restaurant success team that is here to have all of these conversations just like the one we had today. I have a whole team of very smart, very cool people that are experts in this area who want to help you optimize everything, profits to menus, so.
Awesome. And I think one thing for everyone to know is, like, ChowNow and Boostly, we're partners together. There's a direct integration, so if you're using one, the other can work very seamlessly. So if you're using ChowNow, Boostly's automatically collecting the data on your customers, building your opted-in list, and asking for feedback after their orders. It can do it all very, very quickly. And easily, so that you don't have to worry about any of that. And then as well, both ChowNow and Boostly have offers for new customers. If you haven't been using us and you have interest in it, like, you can get 20% off your subscriptions with ChowNow. Off of your initial launch with Boostly, you can get 20% off as well. And there will be a poll question here in a second where you can, expressly say if you have interest in learning about either of these companies more offline, or both, or if you're not. It's totally fine if you're not. Hopefully, this was structured in a way where everyone can get value, whether or not you're customers of either of us. You can also go to chownow.com to learn more about ChowNow, and boostly.com, which is like B as in boy, O-O, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, L-Y. There was a question in the chat on how to spell that. So that's that. So this might be a good time to just run that poll question, and you can answer for yourself where you have interest in learning, and we can follow up with you after the webinar, depending on your selection there.
Well, thank you for all that information. So a couple different ways we're going to open it up to Q&A. I have some questions already here in the chat. I've been keeping track of them. I see a Q&A option as well. You're more than welcome to use that. The first question that we had here was from John. He sent it to just us, but it says, how do I gauge saturating my customer or diner with text messages? So when is too much? When is too little? Shane, Shandy, talk to us about that. Shane, I see you chomping at the bit here.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that, because texting is it is like the most direct form of communication. And because of that, it can be overdone. So this is a really important question. We have millions of data points, hundreds of millions of data points on this, where we've been able to see what is too much on average and what isn't. What we've found is if you send a text once a week to your customers, that's probably the sweet spot. And then you can get away with like a second if it's a special holiday or a one-time event, or if it's their birthday or something like that. But generally the sweet spot is once a week. You also, if you do less than that, you're missing opportunity, you're leaving money on the table. If you do much more than that too often, you burn out your audience and it's just too much, and they reply stop to opt out. That's one of the other things to know about SMS in particular. Every text, like the government requires that you have opt-out instructions. So it's very easy for someone to just reply stop and leave your text club. And so you don't want to overdo it. You want to be in that sweet spot where you maximize revenue, but don't annoy your customer. And when people opt in, they actually see how often on average you're going to be texting them. So when everyone has to raise their hand and say, I want to receive these, and they know right up front before they opt in, this is how I should be expecting a weekly text. If I'm not interested in that, I'm not going to opt in. And if it does ever get too much, I'm going to reply stop and opt out.
Yeah. And I think that's really about that customer segmentation and making sure that you are, getting the right message to the right customer and not just sort of blasting to everybody all the time. Because if it's tailored for them, then they're far less likely to say, please don't annoy me anymore.
Certainly.
A couple questions.
Watch like opt-out rates. If you get a bunch of people opting out, you're overdoing it. That's the other way to gauge it.
That's good to know. I have two questions here from Jacob. One is more, and I think this is an interesting one because I've heard this happen before. So I'd love to hear Shane and Shandy if you have any ideas on this. But Jacob was saying, hey, I'm having an issue getting control of my Google listing. You tried to contact someone at Google. Is there any type of things that he could possibly do to maybe expedite that or get it to figured out?
Yeah, I mean, you can contact Google. It's important to, continuously reach out to them. This is really important. This is something that my team will help with too. If you are a ChowNow client, like this is something that my support team would help with, and just making sure that we're following up and trying to get you to the right folks. But Google does have support that will help with this. But unfortunately, you do have to, just stay on them a little bit.
On them. And then I think this is in regards to online ordering or menu engineering. You said, are there options to upsell before checkout? Certainly on online ordering side, hey, would you like to add in these additional items? Shane, any thoughts on that about like additional ways that you could upsell before checkout?
Yeah, I mean, before checkout it's great. There's a ton of places where you can do it. I think it's important to like how you're ordering things on your is there a good flow on your menu? Like, does it make sense? Are you looking at if you're looking at an item, it's like, okay, this is my item, and then do I want to now go into my side, and how do I want to enhance that? And sort of making sure that flow makes sense and not sort of skipping from entree to drink to side to this to that. It should be this like nice flow that makes sense. And I think in general, people will sort of do what you tell them to do and where you point them. And so if you are making this happy path, they'll take it and you'll get those upsells.
Great. Hector sent us a message. Hey, can we send SMS in Canada?
The answer is yes, you can. It is important to know the US and Canada have different government regulations. Texting is like a federally regulated thing in both countries. But the answer is yes. And just so that you know, because it's important to you, Boostly does follow all of the compliance. It does follow the compliance side in both the US and Canada. So it's set up for either country.
Got it. Another one here. how do you recommend handling negative reviews? How do you recommend handling those negative reviews that come through?
I can jump in if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm happy to add to that as well.
I think so. Having a customer support team with online ordering, there's a lot of sort of cold French fries that we sometimes have to deal with, and that can be a very emotional moment for folks. And so there are definitely ways of coming in and making sure that even when someone is maybe wrong or rude, or it's just maybe not quite as accurate as you would like them to be, I think we can all take that really personally, because this is your business and you did something either right or wrong, and they are really making it a big deal. But it is important that you sort of go in with a level head. Something that we talk about on my team is, handling the heat, right? Is something that we do where you want to take control. You don't want to match the energy of the person who is leaving you a negative review. You want to come in humbly, accepting of feedback, and trying to make things right in any way that you can. I would always avoid sort of a little tit for tat of, no, that's not what happened. No, I didn't do this. That's not what happened. Just an apology, and here's what we're going to do to make it right. Really goes a long way for the person who left the review and for the other people reading your reviews. I think that's really important. I'm always a little bit wary when I see a very combative, review response that is coming from a restaurant owner or from any business owner or a support person or wherever it is. So even if things are a little bit out of proportion, just sort of take it and respond kindly.
I think one thing that I'll add is if there's a difference between the public platforms as well as your internal feedback that you receive. On the public platforms, you do want to respond, and like Shandy said, be level-headed, be professional about it. One of the best ways you can do is to invite them to reach out to you directly as well, because people, you're not going to resolve this through a back and forth reply on Google or Yelp. But you can say, hey, so sorry this was your experience. I really care about us having an amazing customer experience. I'd love to talk to you more about this and figure out how we can make sure that this is better for you and you're taken care of. You can reach out to me directly give them an email address. And most of the time you won't hear from that person, but it helps the online presence and people see, oh, you care about the experience. You want to do something to actually solve the problem of hey, what's the core issue? Are our servers not doing the right thing? What is it? So that you can solve it, and that showcases things better. Similarly, if it's an internal piece of feedback, reach out to the customer relatively quickly. Be level-headed. Apologize where apologies are needed, but also do pay attention to people who are just trying to game the system as well. You don't want to just blanket have a policy where you don't want to enable people to complain and then they just get stuff. So you kind of have to walk that balance, and that happens best through an actual conversation where a manager calls the person, gets more insight, and can make a judgment call there.
I appreciate that. I think here one or two more questions. If anyone else, you have anything else you want to put in the chat? This is very specific to ChowNow question, but Jen had asked, does ChowNow allow for Google tracking on the website if the restaurant is running ads? I know that's a very specific question there, Shandy.
It is. So at the moment, we do not have that level of tracking on ChowNow specifically, but it is a feature that has been requested, and I talked to our product team about. So I'm actually excited that you put that in there, because I'm going to screenshot that and send it to our product team right now.
Wonderful. There you go, Jen. Thank you, Jen. We appreciate it. I've got one more final question going back to data. And, does ChowNow order data get added to the Boostly text marketing campaigns? Is that something that happens there if the two are working together?
Yes. So we have the ability to track all of that. So the last dates of order, we're able to look and see what they've been ordering. All of that flows through to Boostly.
All right. Well, we are nearing the end of our time. And of course, we want to thank everybody who has joined. Shane, Shandy, as always, open up here, kind of final thoughts, anything else you want to say to the folks who have joined us today before we sign off?
I just want to say, the fact that people have come, and we know you are, being a restaurant owner is so busy and you have so many different pressures on you. So the fact that you're taking the time to come and invest in how to make your business better, how to grow, that we just applaud you for that. Thank you for coming and learning with us and asking questions and being engaged. This was fantastic, and our hats are just off to all of you who are running your restaurants, because we know that is so difficult. And if there's anything that we can ever do to help make your life better in a result, that's the purpose behind our companies. So we hope to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that sentiment. This has been such a pleasure. I love talking about this stuff, and I hope that you all found it helpful. And I think there's a couple of questions that were, directly to the hosts, and there's a few that were for ChowNow specifically, and I'll make sure to reach out to anyone who did not get their question answered. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. This recording, everything will be sent out after this is all done. And we appreciate you all being here. So have a great rest of your day. And we will hope to hear from you all very soon. So talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Restaurant Rocket Fuel. And thank you to the amazing restaurateurs that work so hard to provide an amazing guest experience for our communities. Again, this podcast is sponsored by Boostly. To see how we can drive more revenue to your business, visit boostly.com. Don't forget to subscribe and go out there and maximize the potential that you and your business have in front of you.